I just have to let the birds, you hear the birds? Good morning, everyone that's here on the West. Welcome to Coast to Coast. It's afternoon on the East. I'm Cari Champion, David Lloyd, enjoying some much-needed time off. So now we will begin in Los Angeles. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin notified the Clippers they will not pick up their player options next year. You've heard about that. Meanwhile, the Clippers bring in the logo to make it better. But check this out. There are far more questions than answers about the Clippers now that we've got this news. Okay, so yeah, he said it. Nobody can replace Chris Paul. Joined by Jacoby of Jalen and Jacoby, the very famous talk show that people are now talking about.
Yes, give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want. Okay, so on his radio talk show, he talks about many things, different things. We're going to talk basketball and football today. Let's begin with the Clippers. Your take on Chris Paul and Blake Griffin leaving. Do they stay or do they go?
I think that Chris Paul stays and Blake Griffin goes. Now, one thing I want to be...
That's interesting that you say that. So let's talk about Jerry West, because I feel as if when it was announced, there wasn't enough discussion in terms of media, maybe on television. You may have done it on your show, but give him credit for that. But I do believe that he was able to be very instrumental there. We've seen his genius. So what happens now? You bring them to the Clippers, and for whatever reasons, the Clippers have not been able to get over the hump with this very talented group. People have always talked about woulda, coulda, shoulda. They've had many opportunities to show. I'm under the impression, and what people are saying is that CP3 is frustrated.
Yes.
What does Jerry West do to keep him there?
Well, one thing Jerry West can do to keep him there is pay him $200 million.
Okay.
You know, so that helps. You know, $200 million can keep you anywhere. But I think when you say they have, his game has changed a little bit more. I'm not sure he's worth this super max type of deal. Okay,
so you get rid of Blake Griffin. What are their options? Who's coming to the Clippers? And how does that make CP3 less frustrated?
It's interesting because I sit here and say, oh, well, Blake Griffin's always hurt. Blake Griffin's always hurt. But, you know, he's actually. So
that still makes me think that doesn't make CP3 happy. If he's on the latter end of his career, he wants a chip because everybody's doing it.
Yes.
And he's seen it done really quickly, you know. So how come he can't get one?
Everyone talks about Chris Paul to the Spurs, Chris Paul to the Spurs, Chris Paul to the Spurs.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot of money, but if you are Chris Paul and you are frustrated and you do want that chip, maybe.
All right, well, we'll see. They're telling me to move on to the Cavs because apparently there's something happening with the Cavs. Have you heard? Yeah, so they're going after Paul George, contending for Carmelo. We'll get to Carmelo later. Let's talk about George. Why does that deal make sense for both Paul George and the Cavs?
I love this. I would love to see Paul George on
him. Why not any of the other players that didn't show up? Namely, a Tristan Thompson, maybe.
Tristan Thompson, it's the contract that he's got. You remember
this, and it sounds to me that the Cavs are just like, whatever we can do to beat the Warriors for this upcoming season. Because who's to say Paul George is going to stay? They only get him for a year.
Who's to say LeBron is going to stay? I mean, that's really what it is. These rumors that popped up about LeBron going to the Lakers, LeBron coming to LA. I know you love them, but no one it's.
I love the what ifs. This is my favorite part. Even though people are like, just make it happen, I do love the what ifs and the possibilities.
Me too. The hypotheticals.
I don't see him coming to LA. That would be LeBron, but you never know. I mean,
I didn't see him shaving his head bald, but there you go.
Yeah,
now look at him. Now look at him.
Bald. Hello. We will switch to some football. I wanted to get your take on this because I've listened to the show and I know you guys have talked about activism in sports, if you will.
Of course.
Last night, I had the opportunity to present at the BET Awards.
I saw it.
And I actually was interested in your take on the Bennett brothers because the Bennett brothers are doing it in a very different way. Talk to me about the evolution of today's athlete.
One thing I love about these two in particular is they're outspoken, extroverted, and they're entertaining. You know, like they are funny and they are really good characters. They're going to be some hands. Like every single penny of his endorsement money is going towards charitable causes. That, to me, says a lot more than a tweet. Yeah, you got to put your money where your mouth is, much like when Colin Kaepernick is done. And do you feel as if athletes are more comfortable since Colin Kaepernick came out to talk about what they're doing and what they want to do? I feel like the conditions around Kaepernick, I think, did get a lot of attention, not some negative and some positive, but I think that he just sort of stoked the flame of athletes being more vocal. You see a more active athlete in the past few years than I have before. Than ever before, and I appreciate that because it's good to see them in a different light. And like I said, not even evolve. They've probably all felt that way, but you're right, the intensity in our country and the climate forces them to feel as if they have to speak up. We're going to do an explain yourself, tough transition. But it seemed like they just set that hoop up. It's one of those like playground hoop on wheels. I'm saying the hoop is high. Okay. That's what I'm saying. But even, did you notice as he fell down and tried to get back up, he fell down again? Yes. Okay, yes. So what about that? 2 attempts, too. If I miss the first attempt, I'm not going back for the second attempt. You know, he should just be shooting threes. He didn't stretch or warm up.
Jacoby has his back. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yes.
Kind of, sort of.
High hoop. It's a high hoop.
High hoop. All right.
It's a high hoop.
Jacoby joining us on Coast to Coast. Always an excellent job.
Thank you so much.
All right.
They're going to load the box, and they're going to force him to have to throw the football. They tried it last year, but he got away. Okay, he got away. He got to the point where he got the team into the playoffs as the quarterback spot. So a lot of
That's where we have our conversation today. So John McEnroe saying it'd be an entirely different story. And I think since the beginning of time, especially with tennis, there is always this conversation about gender. If it were men playing, if it was a woman playing, why is gender such a big issue in tennis?
That's a big issue society-wise. I mean, that conversation, well, first and foremost, it's important to note that women's tour, they will be the #1 player in the world with all the records. Kind of find that hard to believe based upon what we know about play. But secondly, it's so misogynist to have to qualify whatever a woman does through the prism of men. You know, when you look at what happened, handle pressure point situations, time in and time out.
Just to marinate on what you just said, she's one of a few athletes, male or female, that we think no matter if she is in contention, she will win it all. If she is in the event, she will win it all. We had that with Jordan, Serena,
right?
And who else? It's hard to name. You said Michael Phelps. It's hard to name.
Exactly. And so when you realize that, not even the great Roger Federer, Serena Williams, you don't go, yeah. The only person you said it was Serena Williams is Serena Williams. You say, yeah, but Serena.
Okay, so you and I both cover tennis for a long time, and I'm going to be really honest with you. I remember there was a time when Serena's hitting partner at the time, Sasha, says that, you know, she's beat me on a few occasions. And he said that as if that was...
Well, I'm working harder than women. I should be paid more, and I could beat her.
And the level of competition is more intense in their mind than it is on the WTA.
Exactly. Even though, in reality, women train just as hard as men.
I agree with everything that you're saying. And Serena also said that she would have been in the conversation a long time ago in terms of being the greatest athlete of all time if she were a male. A long time ago, considering all that she's accomplished. Do you ever think that there will be a time that we will acknowledge someone like Serena and not qualify her as the best female athlete? In sports?
Well, so far, society has said no, that to be woman is to be lesser than. And no matter what the accomplishments are, they'll always be through the prism of how it is compared to a man. And the assumption is the men are always better. There's the NCAA tournament, and then there's the women's NCAA tournament. Why aren't they part of the same tournament? They're all going to the same school. They're all fighting for the same thing, a championship. Yeah. So it'll always be that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, in closing, you did say John is very complimentary of the sisters. You're right, and he does appreciate all that they do for tennis. It's just unfortunate that we have to qualify. Especially in the instance of one Serena Williams, because she, in my opinion, is the greatest athlete of all time. Elsie Granderson, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you.
We're Coast to Coast.